Hey guys, I'm right here and welcome back to another Clash Royale video. Today, I've gone ahead and pushed up to 6,800 trophies with the classic 2.9 Mortar cycle. Now, Mortar cycle is so difficult to use in this meta. The amount of Barb huts, royal recruits, flying machines, royal hogs, and lava hounds that are popping around everywhere just make it such a difficult time to play this deck as effectively as possible. That being said, today, I'm going to be going over a couple of super difficult matchups and show you guys some replays of exactly how I was able to take them down. But before we get into some matches, today's video is brought to you guys by World War II, which you guys can download using my link down in the description. This game is a rather unique real-time strategy game that honestly revolves around some super interesting mechanics. The basis of this game revolves around your commander, which you can actually direct anywhere on the map to attack opposing towers and troops. You also have two towers that have special abilities. One rages the commander while the other one heals it. In addition, the commander itself also can have special abilities which can be unlocked through different skins. For example, this Commander Howdy skin right here reduces the damage from the enemy commander by 20%. This feature is part of their huge new heroes update, which a lot of players in this genre have wanted for a very long time. Each month does have a new season, and with the start of December comes the start of Season 5, which comes with a ton of new exclusive skins and emotes, especially for people that reach the highest ranks. My club in the game is called 69, so if you click the link in the description and download it, you can go ahead and play this game with me. World War II is hosting a tournament where the top 3 players in my clan at the end of this month will get 1,000 diamonds. In the future, there are also plans for a $25,000 tournament, so hey, download the game early and try and get good fast. Huge thanks to World War II for sponsoring today's video, and with all that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Alrighty, so this first match here is going to be against a Lava Hound deck. Now, what makes a lot of these really difficult matchups possible is mostly because of one thing. If they don't run the arrows, that makes your matchup actually a million times better. Lava Hound and all of these other matchups are still insanely difficult, but just because they don't run arrows, it just makes this matchup so much more easy to manage. So starting off here, as you can see, I've become a little more aggressive with my mortars because, you know, it's just a 4 elixir card, and so here I go in with archers as well as some skeletons there to protect. I thought the Inferno Dragon would die, which is why I placed the Knight here. Since he went Lava Hound opposite lane, I need to pressure the opposite. And I actually have to waste my NATO just to take out that Inferno Dragon. But luckily that forces out a set of Barbarians, so that NATO was just completely justified there in my opinion. So now what I do here is my plan. I know he's probably going to balloon here, right? So, and he's pretty low on elixir because he played those barbs. So once he balloons here, I know it's pretty safe to go in with a mortar here. And note the placement, it'll actually pull the balloon to where both towers can target the balloon. Then I place some far archers, that way he doesn't have elixir to take those out. And you can see here, the tower and the archers are just enough to take down that balloon. Archers will finish down that miner, and then as soon as that Lava Hound pops, I just go in with a Knight to tank for the pups, and that will be that defense pretty much sealed up. He does go in with a baby dragon, which does actually damage down my Knight, which does force out a bit more of a response. I end up actually going in with a mortar, which in hindsight is probably not the best move in the world. I maybe could have just gotten away with a 3 elixir tornado, perhaps could have even tried to get a king tower activation, but in the end of the day, it does work out, as you can see, once we head towards double elixir time. So once we head towards that double elixir mark, he goes in with a Lava Hound in the back, and I just go ahead and play archers first. That way I can cycle back to another pair of archers. I go in with a Knight push in the opposite lane, which again forces out another set of barbarians, which is just 5 elixir that he won't be able to spend on his offensive push. Again, mortar down on defense, a second pair of archers down, or not, I guess. Instead, I just go in for a king tower activation. Now here, I'm a little bit worried about getting 3 crown because he's got a miner and a balloon on my king tower, so I do defend that a little bit. And here he gets another balloon push down as soon as I mortar opposite lane. This allows the mortar to get a lock onto the tower, and I also just get a rocket down onto all of this stuff, which finishes that off pretty well. I tried to block that Inferno Dragon, but those skeletons just came down way too late. But 15 seconds left, 758 is actually just enough to spell cycle. So I cycle a log there, I go in, I believe I just NATO onto the tower. So I go back to my rocket, play those skeletons, get back to the log, and that is actually going to finish off the match. One thing that you really have to take advantage with this Mortar cycle deck is your spell cycle ability. At max level, your rocket NATO logs do 713 damage altogether, so keep that in mind when you need to finish off matches. Alrighty, the next difficult matchup you're going to have is Elixir Golem. And again, what makes this matchup a lot easier is the fact that he's not running the arrows. If he is running the arrows, I'm sorry, you're probably not going to win this matchup. But he is not running arrows. So that being said, he is running the Barb Hut variant, which is insanely difficult. So here, once again, I do start off with the Mortar. In single Elixir time, I like to be a lot more aggressive. So you can see here I go with the Mortar, and then I just rocket out the Baby Dragon Battle Healer combination. I probably should have rocketed it a little bit earlier. That way the Baby Dragon wouldn't have gotten that belch onto the Mortar, but it's still okay, and it's going to get me a lot of significant damage in the beginning. And you'll see later in this match that this lock at the beginning is essentially what wins me the game. So anyways, here he goes with the Barb Hut, and you can see there's really no way for me to lock onto the tower, right? The Barb Hut is just so tanky, and I have to either use my Mortar to snipe the Barb Hut or defend the Elixir Golems, and there's almost no room for me to also have Mortars for offense. And in addition to that, you might also try to spell cycle, but as soon as you just throw away a rocket onto the tower, they're just going to unload everything into your lane, and there's really not much you can do about that either. So anyways here, he's got a low Elixir Golem push coming in. It's pretty small, so I'm able to just really easily mitigate most of that damage here. I try and get a King Tower activation with that Electro Dragon you can see here, but I misplaced my Ice Spear. I placed it one tile too low, and that ends up screwing up my King Tower activation. You can see there, accidental placement. My finger slipped one tile, and that was a really unfortunate interaction there. If I just placed my Ice Spear one tile higher, I would have gotten a King Tower activation, and this matchup would have been a lot more easy in terms of defense. Anyways here, as we head towards double Elixir time, he's going to start playing his Barb Huts more closer to his King Tower, and that's actually really, really well played, because I can't exactly Mortar on offense here, because those Barbs are going to tank, and so now I just go into the Mortar. I try and snipe everything here, so I go Archers here. He's going to Barb Barrel, Ice Spear, everything. And unfortunately, that does pretty much take out most of it. Archers do damage down the Electro Dragon, which is pretty good, but you can see here the Mortar is not going to get anywhere close to that Barb Hut, unfortunately. So really well played. That protected Barb Hut really forces me to play defense. There's no way I can play a Mortar on offense here, and so he's going to build up another push in the opposite lane. So here I go Ice Spear to drag everything together. Rocket will finish off everything like so, and then I just go in with a High Knight. Unfortunately, though, the Electro Dragon's Chain Lightning is really, really effective and just pretty much takes out my entire defense right there. So 16 seconds left. He's going to, I believe, just replace that Barb Hut with another hut. I go in with another defensive Mortar here, and I mean, this is just, I don't know, this is just a rinse and repeat at this point, right? As you can see, I got that early lock onto the tower, and at this point, I know I have the damage advantage, and as long as I'm able to consistently defend his pushes, it's not that big of a deal. And of course, I'm just going to go ahead and cycle back to a second rocket, and that will be more than enough to finish off this push. As you can see, NATO right there, I time it so that I rocket the push as soon as that Elixir Golem pops. That'll turn them into blobs and give me that instant elixir like so. And then Ice Spirit there, Archers will finish that battle hero off. And at this point, he's just completely given up. I just go in for the easy win here, and yeah, you can see I was pretty confident that I was going to win the rest of this match anyways. I wasn't going to get another Mortar lock onto the tower most likely, but I was able to really consistently defend every single one of his pushes so that he wasn't able to get any damage whatsoever. So you can see here, as in single Elixir, you really want to maximize your cycle and aggressiveness to get as much chip damage as you possibly can. Alrighty, so this next match here is going to be against a Golem Lightning deck. Now, this variation of Golem Lightning is pretty much the only one that's really popular in this current meta, and that is the Golem Bomber variant. Now, the reason why it's so popular is, you can see right now, because the support cards are cheap enough that Golem First Play is actually a somewhat viable play. So, the opponent here just goes ahead, Golems in the back, and goes with a Mega Minion to deal with the Knight in the opposite lane. Here I make a little bit of a misplay. I should have saved the Skeleton for the Mega Minion on the left lane. As you can see here, the Lightning +1 Mega Minion swipe actually took out the Mortar, and that meant that I could not get myself a King Tower activation. If I had saved those Skeletons, the Mortar would have survived a little bit longer, and I would have started the match taking almost no damage onto my Crown Towers with a King activation. So not exactly the best start. But here I just go in with a quick little push in the opposite lane against a lot of beatdown decks that includes Golem, Lava Hound, Giant. You're going to want to be quite aggressive in single elixir, and a lot of times I'll make very interesting and not average pushes like that Knight Skeletons at the bridge. So here I do cycle to a second Mortar. He goes in with a baby dragon to start damaging that down, and here I just go with an Ice Spear and cycle to a Knight. Again, the Knight in the opposite lane will force out a response, and you can see he has to expend his Bomber just to counter that Knight in order to not take, you know, a ton of damage onto the tower. So anyways, here he goes in with another Golem in the back, and this is going to be a difficult push to defend. I go ahead and log there so that the Bomber doesn't get any damage onto my Crown Towers. And yeah, I get ready to defend this lane while getting a little bit of a push in the opposite lane as well. He ignores that, and he's going to take several hundred damage from those archers, which will come in very handy later in this match. So anyways, here, as you can see, I Mortar as late as possible. This way, the Mortar still has surviving health, allows me to get a King Tower activation. Meanwhile, the archers and the Knight finish off that Night Witch, and I just drag everything over with some skeletons and a log, which finish off that Bomber nice and easily. I do have to go in with a Knight because the Bomber doesn't quite die, but as you can see, as the dust settles, I've actually defended that push relatively well. I'm not sure how much damage I took exactly, but it wasn't very much. So here with 34 seconds left, I go in with an Ice Spear. As you can see, I'm just trying to get chip damage onto the tower, and at this point, he even has to spend 3 Elixir just to defend my 1 Elixir Ice Spear. 24 seconds left now. I just go ahead and go in with a Knight to finish off the Bomber. And once again, nader that Golem to the King Tower so that the Crown Towers will not be taking any damage at all. And yeah, I just go in with a high Ice Spirits, a high Skeletons, and then a Knight down to do some extra tankage. And as you can see, spells will finish the job for you. 682 is well within spell cycle range, so I just go in with a Rocket, and I cycle some of my other spells as well onto the tower. I believe the Ice Spirit actually connects anyways, and that's a GG well played. So as you can see, you know, Golem matchups are quite difficult, but as long as you're playing it very aggressively to make sure that they can't build up an absolutely massive push, then you're going to be able to have a much better chance against these beatdown players. Alrighty, so this last match is going to be against 3.0 Expo. Now, Expo, in general, I will now say that Mortar does have the matchup. However, if you make one mistake, then you're just completely screwed. The reason is because normally you'll be able to just constantly rocket out their Expos without taking any damage at all, and that's kind of the goal of this matchup. But once your opponents get an insanely healthy Expo lock onto the tower, they'll be able to actually cycle fireballs and keep up with your rocket cycles quite effectively. So anyways, here, back to the match. In single elixir and in double elixir, the whole point of this matchup and the whole time you're trying to play it, you're trying to keep up with the Expo player's cycle. So as you can see here, he did manage to outcycle my my Rocket, which is really well played on his end, but as you can see, a defensive Mortar will finish off that Expo right there. So as you can see, first, best case scenario, you always have your Rocket in cycle for the Expo, so you just go in with a Rocket and then a log to finish that entire health. But if they have outcycled your Rocket, then just go in with a defensive Mortar in the anti-fireball position so that they can't get fireball value onto your healthier tower. So as you can see here, now I am perfectly in cycle. Rocket is in hand for that Expo, so he's going to go in with an Expo push, I believe, in the opposite lane. So I just go ahead and Rocket log that thing out of there. And here he does get a little bit of a lock, I think, with the Archer. Oh, never mind. No damage from the Archer. Which is even better. So as you can see, we're just constantly keeping up with his Expo cycle. I am once again 1 card away from the Rocket. He's like 2 cards away from the Expo, I believe. No, actually 3 cards, wow. And so as you can see, it's not even an issue. Our cycle is actually slightly quicker than Expo just because they're running a 3.0 variation. And so as you can see, Rocket is right back into hand, and here the opponent realizes that he should probably start spell cycling because there's no way that the Rocket's going to break through. But as soon as he goes in with an Expo on defense, you're going to want to Rocket onto the tower. This is because just treat that defensive Expo just like an Expo on offense, right? If they played the Expo on offense, offense, you would want to rocket it. But since they're playing it on defense this time, you're going to want to rocket the tower, because obviously, like I said, you can keep up with their Expo cycle. Like here, he tries to outcycle the Expo, doesn't really work. Expo just gets rocketed out nice and easily. And yeah, 21 seconds left. I am in a pretty decent lead, and I split my archers, go in, I believe, with like an ice spear or a log or something like that. And yeah, I just go ahead and cycle to my rocket once again. Rocket goes down, and the whole goal of the Expo player is to try and outcycle the rocket, but there's really no way they're going to outcycle my rocket just because I don't have any cards that are more than 4 elixir in this deck aside from the rocket. Alright, so here once again I go in with a defensive mortar because my rocket was, 1 card away. He does try and get a fireball down, but as you can see, the knight and the archers are going to be more than enough to finish that Expo off. This matchup is quite repetitive, so and it more often than not will last the entire 5-minute length of the match. So yeah, you can kind of see what I'm trying to do here, right? There's no way he's getting locks onto the tower, and once I get towards that last minute and a half of the match, you can see I'm gonna start to shy away from using rockets onto the Expo and instead just start cycling logs and tornadoes onto that Expo. This way, it will free me up to get the occasional rockets onto the tower, which obviously will come in very, very handy when trying to get those tiebreaker wins. So here, once again, I cycle my log here. And I just go in probably with a defensive mortar once again, or not. Actually, he goes in with a fireball, so I defensive mortar, and then I'm pretty sure I'll send a rocket here. Yeah, as you can see, he's going to waste 4 elixir on nothing. I'm going to waste 6 on nothing, and there's not too big of repercussion. So as you can see, like I said, I'm just going to start cycling logs and tornadoes onto the Expo. And because this deck cycles so quickly, you can cycle to multiple logs. So you can see here, I get a second log onto that Expo. He does cycle to a second one, so I believe I just rocket that out. Oh no, I actually rocket onto the tower. Okay, I believe that is because that Expo is towards my healthier tower, so I'm not too worried about that. And here, he does get a little bit of chip damage onto the tower, but 22 seconds left. I'm just going to keep sending rockets onto the tower, and at this point, there's no way he's going to get an Expo lock onto the tower, and he just goes ahead and gives up. So I go ahead and get myself a nice and easy win. So Expo matchups are very, very difficult, and it requires a lot of management of your card cycle. In addition, you can't really make any mistakes because any sort of error in card cycling and you're going to be outcycled, and the Expo player will be able to get consistent locks onto the tower. There we go, guys. As you can see, a couple of replays leading up to my push to 6,800 trophies in Clash Royale. Apologies for these not being live. I do find that I play a lot better when I'm not recording, so in order to get some of the best replays possible, I did choose to play these off camera. But unfortunately, guys, that's all I've got time for in today's episode. Huge thanks to all of my channel members. You guys are the absolute G's. If you enjoyed, please leave a like down below, as well as a subscription to my channel. And as always, this is Legendaray, and I'm signing off. See you guys next time.